Recording in progress. Welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. I'm your host, alongside my good friend and producer, Eric Kohler. This series celebrates the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scene in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversation with legends and modern-day talent, including those behind the scene. I want to thank all the people who've been working tirelessly behind the scene. Hence, whether you listen to this podcast series, watch us on YouTube, a big thank you and thanks for your support. And I think it's your responsibility and your obligation to tell everyone you know to tune in and check us out. Please remember to subscribe. You have to. It's your responsibility, because we're trying to preserve this great music for posterity, for generations to come. We welcome our three guests from Fresno, California. Highly influential veteran of the ska scene. Let's go bowling. Keyboardist, vocalist Darren Fletcher. Tenor saxophonist Dean Olmstead, and last but definitely not least, guitarist, harmonica player, vocalist Paul Miskulin.
Welcome, gentlemen.
How about the pronunciation?
Thank you.
The pronunciation.
Yes.
Any slaughtering?
Nice. Thank you, Junor. Welcome, Darren, Dean, and Paul. Great to meet you all. We've been looking forward to talking with you for some time, so we appreciate you making the time to do this tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
When was the last time you all three were together? Has it been?
We were doing some shows up until, sorry, I didn't mean to hop in there, but right up until COVID hit, we weren't doing a ton of LA shows, but we were playing in town in Morro Bay, but after COVID, we just kind of didn't do shows because it was so risky. So I haven't seen these guys in, pre-COVID.
5 years.
There we go. Well, we're here tonight. So let's start by just getting a little bit of background on each of you, as far as where you were born and raised. Darren, why don't we start with you?
Born and raised just south Selma, California, just south of Fresno.
Nice.
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, I've been pretty much raised in Fresno, most of my life.
And how about you, Dean?
Fresno.
Okay. Nice.
Bunch of Valley musicians.
I have
Valley.
I have a lot of in-laws that are from Fresno. Some of them had some almond farms back in the day, which I think is that's the region, I think, where some almonds grow pretty widespread, or at least maybe they used to.
For sure.
Yeah, pretty much anything you can grow here.
Right.
Yeah, all right. So I guess we move. Can you, all three of you, first you heard ska, whether it was 2-tone, 3-tone, or no tone?
Do you recall the moment, the ska baptism, so to speak?
Oh, man, yeah. I remember mine, right? I had an older brother who was listening to a lot of things, and there might have been so going back to early 80s, and there was the college radio station in town, and they would play some ska sometimes. It was hit and miss whenever you would do it, but it wasn't until I got to I was a sophomore in high school, and I was in the marching band, and a couple of the guys, and I was in the drum line, and a couple of the guys who were in there ended up being in the Khyber Rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, man, you gotta, later in the Khyber Rifles, but they were like, man, you gotta listen to some ska, man. So they really kind of turned me on to a lot of it from there. And, starting with, specials, all 2-tone stuff. And then I remember very vividly being driving in a car and listening to the college radio station, and some and the guy who was DJing at the time, he was like, hey, I found this, and this is Bob Marley when he was like 18, and it was like Simmer Down.
Right. Early.
Oh, what's this? And so there it was,
and John and the trombone,
right.
1964.
I was really hooked after that. You know?
Okay, that's great. Darren, how about you?
You know, I didn't have any friends in high school that actually listened to ska, so it was sort of a slower pickup for me. And I couldn't get that college radio station Paul was talking about in
Yeah.
my small town that far, 20 miles away. But it was actually on MTV, out of town, going to the coast, and where we would stay, they had cable TV
Mhm.
and they had MTV, and I was just all over it. I just couldn't take my eyes off it. And they were
So,
playing,
so the two-tone bands, the videos.
yeah, totally. And I distinctly remember them having Madness, One Step Beyond, the
Yeah.
video for that in heavy rotation. So I was just like, what is this? This is, I mean, it was cool. I dug it from the beginning, but didn't know what the heck it was. Anyway, then I kind of the same story as Paul and found out, just a little bit as time went along.
Right. Went backwards, so to speak, and discovered the earlier stuff. Yeah.
Right. Actually, getting to know the early LGB guys, Dean and Dave Ween, some of the other guys, Mark Michelle. They knew it well already, so they're like, just they introduced me to a lot of it, so it was cool.
Passing on the knowledge.
Totally.
Dean, how about you?
So he mentioned David Weens, which is funny enough. David Weens was my neighbor.
Oh, nice.
We kind of grew up together, and he would play. I was listening to, I don't know, I don't even remember. I was like a kid, and he would play Devo and early stuff. And then I remember him pulling out the first English Beat album, and he put it on, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And and it has a saxophone.
Yeah.
Growing up playing like horns, it was like, this is horn-based music. It was so cool. Saxo, of course, now huge influence. I love his style, and then I also had, it was kind of this weird coalescing thing where the drummer in our jazz band in high school was like, you got to check out this album. And it was totally separate than this English Beat. And it was the first Specials album. He's like, I think you'll love it. And so then it was just, and then there was Fishbone. And so we started like kind of catching up on those early Untouchables, finding those early albums. And yeah.
So specific to Untouchables and Fishbone, right? So not two-tone, and obviously from SoCal here.
Right.
Did you hear about them from radio, or was that what you heard from Dave Weens about, or did those groups come play Fresno? Did you see them?
They actually played Fresno, yeah. Untouchables, Fishbone. I remember seeing the Untouchables in a very small venue. Was it Star Palace? Do you guys remember?
Star Palace.
Yeah.
They were there. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Back in
the
84,
right.
85, something like that.
General Public played Star Palace too.
Oh yeah.
They actually played with the Kyber Rifles, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it was scary.
84,
I mean, Fresno's a town of 500,000 and more now, but even back then, we still had people stopping in between San Francisco and LA.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And I remember seeing like an Oingo Boingo show at one of the Hacienda Hotel or some weird place, and it was just such a great show. And but these were small places to play, but just like us going down to play LA.
Sure, of course, right.
To add to that, in '86, some of us drove down to the Tulare Fair to see the Untouchables play.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Okay.
that's cool.
Right,
I remember
right.
that one.
Did you ever see? I don't know if the Box Boys ever made their way up there. They were one of the early ska groups down here that played the On Club back in the early '80s. Or did the Uptones come down from San Francisco during that time?
Yeah, the Uptones. Yeah, they came through Fresno.
Okay.
They opened up for the Untouchables on the show that I saw.
Oh, nice. That would have been a great one.
Yeah, but the Box Boys.
That's
no.
right. It was like Satellite Union or something like that.
Right.
Oh, okay. So it was '86. I saw at Selland Arena in Fresno. It was Fishbone opening for, who was it? It was Fishbone, Murphy's Law, and the Beastie Boys.
Wow.
Their first album, yeah. So that was
Sweet.
That's a powerful one.
Yeah,
right.
that's crazy.
That must have been
Beastie Boys' first album, so that was so you know
Right.
they were definitely getting in the mix, you know, playing with these other bands.
And what was your guys' take on the ska scene during that time when you would see these shows, maybe before you started playing in the band? Like, was it what was unique about it, or was there anything that stood out?
I can say it was the energetic shows. It definitely had you know, made its mark and influenced our show, because we were always impressed with like how crazy Fishbone was.
Mm.
Right.
You know, Untouchables danced around the stage the whole time. You know, Oingo Boingo is definitely quirky. We loved all that stuff, so we we kind of fashioned our moves. You know, I mean, everybody's kind of all over the stage, kind of a thing.
Right.
That's what we wanted. We wanted to look like that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, there was a, even for being a smaller town, there was still a ska mod scene here. There was a fair amount of scooters and, you know,
Oh, okay.
it was tiny, but yeah, we had, you know, seeing people dressing up and
Yeah, people dressed the part. Right.
even when it was 105 degrees, dressing too hot for that weather, but yeah.
So has Fresno historically been a music city? A lot of bands traditionally come out of
Bands
Fresno?
passing
No,
either to or
from
Yeah.
Fresno.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, there was, like, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of places to play around Fresno, and there were all sorts of bands that popped up here and there. You know, it just seemed like, you know, everywhere that there would be, you know, there were a lot of bands that were around, a lot of homegrown things. Some got out of Fresno, some never did, and but there was always, you know, there was always this live music scene that was going on. And Fresno was really kind of weird too, for, you know, because you'd get these really big acts that would come through Fresno and play these tiny places, you know, when they would be going from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and it was just kind of like, oh, let's have a day off in Fresno, and then they would get this small little gig in this, you know, 100-seat place.
Right.
And you know, just crazy the amount of bands that came through Fresno, and you know, and all types of bands as well.
All genres, right?
Yeah, all genres. You know, there was a really good, you know, music scene at the time, and unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately, all bands, you know, a lot of bands will play really big places now, and they're just too big to, you know, to play in a small place. There's still a you know, a Fresno music scene, but it's not like it was back then.
But you have a couple. I mean, you have a couple arenas there, right?
That weren't there back then.
Now at least, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Right.
But that's the thing too, is that it's like, it's, you know, if it's not a huge show, there's no show,
Right.
which is unfortunate, I think.
Right.
Even for the performers, I can't imagine wanting to always play in a big arena. You know, every so often I would just think, man, I just want to play like a little club like we used to, you know.
Right. Is the university there? Are they have a good I don't know, noontime lunch thing where bands could play? I mean, because I know at least in the 90s down here, a lot of the universities, you know, that was a great place to discover bands.
You know, individual students or group have to take the initiative.
True.
And you can see that
We played a lot of those.
universities have money, but students are taking advantage of the opportunity to bring bands on campus.
Yeah, we played lunch out at Fresno State for sure. Yeah.
Lunchtime, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant exposure.
Yeah.
It's always almost free. Students can come and explore and experience. You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I
Well, I'm essentially saying that for students to take the initiative.
All students out there,
there you
please.
go. Right. From junior high to university, take the advantage. Yes. I want to ask about the Khyber Rifles. They predated Let's Go Bowling with a few members, right? When and how were the Khyber Rifles formed in Fresno?
And who from the Khyber Rifles
Cross.
then crossed over to Let's Go Bowling? And this is for any of you who want to take this.
Yeah, the Khyber Rifles, they came about. So I'm trying to remember, like, what was it, 80? Was it 84?
84, 85, yeah.
Yeah, it was 80, I think
How many
you're
decades
around
in?
84 to 85.
Right.
Yeah,
That's 40 years.
So a couple of years, essentially a couple of years before Let's Go Bowling.
yeah. And it's like, like I said, I went to high school with Eric Dansby, the drummer, and Mike Licati, who played the keys. And, and that was actually the first time I met Mark Michelle was when, and Mark was in it.
Mhm.
There wasn't anybody else, was there?
Pete Nicholson was, because the original like horns,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Pete Nicholson was playing trumpet.
Yeah.
And how
Yes.
long was the group around?
I'm sorry?
Memory juggling. How long was the group around?
Probably, I think Paul was right, like a couple years.
Yeah, like 2 years.
84, 85.
Yeah.
That's
That
still,
that's what I know of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
well, that's still a long time.
I think they might have gone a little bit, but they kind of like, no, I'm thinking somebody else. Sorry.
But they were just like, they were kids at that point. They were all like high school kids. So they weren't really doing like a lot of shows and traveling out of town because of their age. I mean, that's
Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it.
interesting.
Right.
it was a high school band.
Yeah. Like Mike, Mike and Eric, they were juniors, I think.
Right.
And the Khyber Rifles played the talent show that year.
Right.
That's when that's the first
But
time I met
indeed, there
Mark.
were trendsetters.
What's that?
There were trendsetters.
Oh yeah. That was the first time I met Mark, and then now I've just blanked on his name. The
Joey?
singer.
Joey.
Yeah. And yeah, they were pretty.
They were cool. They were the cool kids, man.
They
I remember
were. They
like,
were
seeing
super
them and
cool.
wanting to be in a band, and like it was
Yeah.
cool.
Right. So how did so they disbanded, and then did that help create Let's Go Bowling, or was Let's Go Bowling?
So basically, Pete Nicholson,
Mhm.
All these guys back then, Dean included, a lot of the horn players played for honor orchestras, honor bands, symphonies, things like that out of high school and then into college. So they all knew each other.
Right. Okay.
So after I hope I'm telling this right, but after the Khyber Rifles disbanded, I think Pete wanted some more. He wanted to put a new band together, or a party band, whatever. And he's like, so he gets Mark and he gets a couple other horn players that he knows, and they're like, hey, do you know a keyboard player? A drummer? A guitar player? That's how LGB started. Was let's play some parties, some dances, stuff like that, have a good time.
Right.
And that was early '86 when that first rehearsal happened.
And where did the name come from? Let's go.
So we're sitting around trying to think of band names, and nothing really was we weren't really coming up with anything we liked. And I think that was a name that I don't know who it was. Pete, Joey from the Khyber Rifles. I don't know. I think Joey talked about it one time. If I had to credit somebody with it, it'd be like, yeah, it'd be cool, man. Let's call ourselves Let's Go Bowling and wear bowling shirts and bowling shoes, at our shows, whatever. And that's as far as it went. And I think that name got pulled into the newer group, and we ended up using it. That's what I remember.
And did you guys play a lot of bowling alleys over the years?
Nah, we've played a few.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
used to
Chicago.
rehearse in one, actually.
Well,
As a
we used to
result of the
rehearse.
name?
What's that?
As a result of the name?
Yeah. Well, the little town I grew up in, Selma, there was a bowling alley, and my dad actually knew the owner,
There you
and
go.
they had a back banquet room, and so I'm like, hey, would you ask him if we could, rehearse in that? And so yeah, Dean shaking his head like, yeah. So we
Yeah, practice art
we
a
rehearsed
lot.
there for a while, and we're like, hey, we could put a show on here. That'd be, and so we put a few shows on there,
Yeah.
ourselves, and so that was
And actually, the cover of Music to Bowl By, where we're all at the bowling alley, was at that bowling alley,
Oh,
Freeway
it
Lane.
was okay. Okay, that's cool.
So it all just kind of like worked out
Right.
as this.
Right, right.
and we squeezed the sign is from the live album, Freeway Lanes. That's
Yeah.
the
Okay.
sign for that bowling alley. So
Right.
we kind of squeezed everything we could out of that thing.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
So we had a similar conversation with the guys from Donkey Show about this. So 86, when Let's Go Bowling was formed, also around the same year, Donkey Show was formed, no doubt, Skeletones. Coincidence? Something in the water in California? Like, why do you think? I'm just curious,
I think because of Fishbone and the Untouchables. I mean, they were all, and I think we were all finding the two-tone stuff. I mean, it didn't. The funny thing is, to me, the two-tone stuff, you had to really seek it out. It wasn't like really, available. It wasn't, but once that word got out, we all started like, you got to hear this album. You got to check out this album. Here's the Selector. Here's Bad Manners. And then you started and then we started going like, okay, well, have you, heard about this old ska? And somebody go like, here's the ska lights. And like, that was all brand new and sounded so different than the two-tone stuff. So
Yeah, you got to understand, we had to drive to LA or San Francisco to go to the record store, Berkeley to go to the record stores to find the stuff.
No record store in town?
Not that had they,
but
yeah, they didn't. There were, but they're
not the selection.
they didn't have the selection back then. So that was pretty cool to hit up Amoeba Records or
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
and so that was the records were gold to us. I mean,
Oh,
among, and not just ska. It was the soul and the all kinds of stuff that our mod buddies were listening to, and everything. So
right.
Yeah. Sometimes you make special trips to San Francisco or Los Angeles just to get records.
You have to fault Tower Records for not providing ideal opportunity for you guys to buy records. Because Fresno is a large
They
city.
should have back in the day. They should have.
Yeah. I mean, we had a Tower Records there, but it was and eventually it got to the point where you could find some, some fairly rare things. But in the early days, you were like, and then you
Warehouse Tower.
Yeah. Right.
And then you were making copies of tapes, passing them around to your friends, so that you could.
Right. Right. So the original core members of Let's Go Bowling were who?
Oh, who were they? Mark, Michelle, myself, Pete Nicholson, and then David Molina. His brother Javi Molina was there the first rehearsal, and it was going to be our singer, but he ended up toasting and sort of being the dancer, the early type guy. Martin Stewart on sax, and Mark Berry on trombone. So 7.
And then some of them ended up going to college because, again, everybody was so young.
Yeah.
Like Martin went to college and then law school, so I guess I was lucky in that sense. That
Pete took off, went to school. Mark, the horns took off, and slowly we're, get other guys in there.
Right, because Dean, you came in a couple of years into
probably like 87.
Okay, so not long after.
Right.
And Paul, how about you?
I came in the early 90s. I think it was like around 92. I think late 92.
Right.
and stuff. I was actually in 2 bands that opened for Let's Go Bowling.
Which one?
Oh,
I remember that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
record, which
Two
one?
different bands that opened for Let's Go Bowling.
For
And
the
so-
record,
Yeah, which ones?
I'm sorry.
for the record, you wish to share which ones?
yeah, what bands?
Oh, there was the Chutzpah Boys.
That's right, the Husband
Yeah,
Boys.
that was a blues band, and then Rapid Transit.
That's right.
Full Contract Brats. Yeah, which is a soul band that I was in.
I'll have to check those out.
Right.
That's cool.
So when you guys played Los Angeles and Orange County, how about the acceptance? Did people accept you knowing that you guys from out of town? Was there acceptance, rejection? Were people cool?
I would say acceptance. I mean, I felt very lucky. Some of the first shows we did down there were very crazy dance. Like Reseda Country Club.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Saw a show here. Man, like tons of people, just tons of scooters outside, and just everybody having a blast. It almost didn't even seem like they even thought that we were from somewhere else. So
Right. It didn't matter. Right. Yeah.
Besides, the Calabar music was excellent.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
True.
I thought about that before before tonight, and just wondering, what we were going to talk about, sort of thing. And we used to get that question a lot, like, "Hey, do you guys, get along with the mods, or is there?" And it was. I just remember we'd always answer. The scenes were so small, we kind of had to stick together.
Right.
So we were, wherever we went, there were mods and Rudies and skinheads at every show, and all kinds of other people, but
Right.
it wasn't a problem. It was like sort of like everybody was like, "Yeah, this is really cool," and what are you into? What do you like? And so that was a cool thing. I
Mhm.
hope that answers your question, but that's
Oh, absolutely,
no,
absolutely.
it definitely does.
Mhm.
And do you remember around when you first played, like the greater LA area? Was it one of the Reseda shows, or was it something smaller, or?
I think it was it was Reseda, I think.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we used to look for it after the first one. We were like, "Oh man,
Call us back
Right.
here. Bring us
I
back.
know you played a number of those. Right. Right.
right."
And did you notice, because over the years, as we've talked with different band members and musicians who played in bands from the late 80s and then that continued on to the 90s, it seemed like in the 90s in the late 80s, there was less of a split and a divide in like the traditional ska side of things, and maybe like the more, let's call it Skeletones type of, right, ska, maybe on the punkier side. Whereas in the 90s, there might have been more, right? You either play these types of shows or these. Did you notice any change like around the the new decade, so to speak? I'm just curious from your point of view if you notice any change in the scene in that along those lines.
Yeah, I think there was I don't want to be the one doing all the talking. I apologize, guys, if you have a better thought on this, Paul or Darren. But there was a trend towards slowing things down, more traditional,
Mhm.
which we could do, but we didn't always fall into because we still have a lot of rock
Right.
influences. But yeah, you got the Hepcat and that whole. I felt that there was somewhat of a split there, but then it's always been so bizarre because you'd have bands on the complete other spectrum on these bills like Voodoo Glow Skulls, very punk rock.
Yeah.
So for us though, I felt like we just ended up playing with everybody, which was
Yeah.
kind
It definitely seemed that way. Right.
so.
Yeah, it seemed that way. It also seemed like there was that the West Coast kind of slowed down, like with bands like Hepcat and such, that the West Coast kind of veered towards more the traditional sound, where like the Midwest and then East Coast was kind of different, but I know a lot of like, punky stuff was going on in the Midwest too, a little harder edge and stuff.
Yeah.
And, more poppy stuff. That's what I seemed to notice. It seemed like more bands from the West Coast were heading towards a more traditional sound.
Yeah.
So,
Accurate.
but then I think that the audiences crossed over. I don't think there was really any, as far as like the audiences going, oh, I'm only traditional. I don't know, there might have been a few of those people, but it seemed like everybody was still digging what was going on,
Yeah. I always loved it when promoters and venues would mix it up and bring the scenes together
But it's always been a challenge and still will be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think along those lines too, we've always wanted and tried to even get more reggae fans to come to some of the ska shows and vice versa, and that's been a challenge down here. I don't know how it is up there. I know that you all have, and we're going to get to that. You've played and opened for certain really heavy reggae acts over the years. And we want to hear how those have been accepted. But let's touch on, we have to just bring this to a sad note because we'd be remiss to not talk about the sad passing of David. What do you remember most, and any great funny stories or memories that you just want to share about David and his prior to his passing?
Wow. Just a music lover. He was a natural. Guy was funny as hell. His whole family was funny, and he was he was just a beautiful guy. He loved performing. I don't know, what do you think, Dean?
Yeah, and he was driven too. I mean, he really, in my opinion, like made me a better musician and really wanted the band to be tight. He did not want to be embarrassed when he was up there playing, and it was like he definitely had the ethic to like, let's get this right, let's make this tight. So it was a very cool thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And funny. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. I mean, I didn't know him well. I kind of slid into where, after he left the band, that's kind of the slot that I went into. But he came back and was played on Mr. Twist. And, just a real nice guy and great musician, good guy,
Like a disciplinarian, among other things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Some memory juggling now. Let's go back to the year 1990 at Earth Day Festival, when you guys were joined by none other than the legendary and iconic Ronan Alfonso, original member of this catalog. What was that experience like?
Oh man.
As if the festival itself was not massive and an experience enough, right? You have none other than Rolando joining you. Share some memories.
So was he saying to slow down the music?
Yeah, I can't remember what song the first song he came out to play with us. It was like five horns, and him. There's a picture of a really cool picture of that. But I don't know. I guess we were excited and young and excited to be in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Or so. And the drummer kind of kicked it off faster than he thought. I mean, it definitely wasn't, a 60s tempo. And he turned around, he's like, slow down, man, slow, And so, before he played a note. And so, anyway, I think the horn, I don't even know if I saw that. I think the horn players told me that story.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. He was kind of like, and it was a fast tempo, because we weren't older guys from Jamaica, so we played stuff a little faster, which is kind of, after meeting the Specials and talking to them, was the same thing. They just kind of sped things up a little bit. I don't like it when things are too sped up, but it was Confucius by the Ska Lights. We kicked it off fast. And he looked at all the horns and he was like, slow it down, slow it down. And there was no stopping that train at that point, you know what I mean? But the thing I remember is that he stood up to the mic to do a solo, and he kept up with the and it was the coolest solo. It was like, but he kept up with the tempo, and it was just, oh, it was so cool. What a magic moment. Yeah. For sure.
But there were no you didn't have a chance to rehearse with him, right?
I was gonna ask, hey,
No, he just
Well,
he knew the
I
tune.
think Tazy Phillips got that together
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
said, "Hey man, would you guys want to, have Roland come out solo?" And we're just like, "What? Of course,
Right.
yeah, that'd be great." And so, here he comes. You know, when
Yeah,
we're
he
gonna
was,
play
and
the
he
song.
played
And
amazing.
it-
Solo, I remember just being like, as a tenor saxophone player, I was like, oh my God. Yes.
the whole day was surreal, but that was even that was like the
icing on the cake, man.
yeah. It was
How many songs did Roland do with you guys?
I think just the one.
Okay.
was it?
I think
I
just the
don't
one.
even remember.
If I remember correctly. God, that was a long time ago.
And any interaction with him after this and subsequent tours with the Scatolites while he was still with them?
Yeah, Paul, we got to talk to those guys.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to talk to, them, Lester and Lloyd, both Lloyds.
But
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two different, like multiple tours. It was,
Yeah. Doreen Schaefer.
Doreen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sweet. Well, it's
There
perfect.
was
Oh,
there
sorry.
was one show we were going to play with the Scotolites, and Tommy McCook was still alive. And we got there, and on the marquee it just said, "Let's go bowling." And we're like, "What's going on? What?" And I was so excited, because that was the first show that I was going to play with the Scotolites, and I was so excited, but there was just us, and they had to cancel. And then unfortunately, soon after that, Tommy McCook passed away, so we never got to play with him, or I never got to play with him. While he was with the Scotolites and stuff. But what a great tour it was with the Sky. I mean, this you're going with, and the same story is like with the Specials when we did a tour with them, and it's like there you are with your teenage heroes,
Yeah.
and you're like, and it's like hey Paul, and I'm like, they know my name. They know who I am.
So on that front, and this is just a few of the groups that you toured with, right? So you mentioned the Scatolites, you mentioned Specials, English Beat, right? Selector, Men at Work, if I'm not mistaken. Bad Manners. I want to come back to Bad Manners here in a minute. Real Big Fish, No Doubt, Wailing Souls, who Junior's tight with Pipe and Bread. Potato Five, you did some shows with, right?
Those are
and that's a conservative list, but these are some of the bigger names.
Yeah, to touch on Potato Five. Was that the first? Were you gonna say that?
Potato Five, November '89. We did 3 weeks with Potato Five.
Wow.
Popped up into Canada, I think both coasts, but it was 3 weeks, U.S. tour, and so that was our first taste of touring the U.S., which was very cool. I think we played CBGBs, maybe. I'm not sure about that one. Don't quote me on that one, but yeah, I mean that was traveling in some tiny vans and.
and we love Potato Five. Like that's when we
yeah.
were starting to find these other albums. Like I think Darren, one of the guys in the band, I don't know who it was, Darren, who turned me on to the Equators, which was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that was one of the Kyber Rifles knew of those guys.
Okay.
Album.
So that album got put on cassette for everybody.
Nice.
That's why, yeah. So that's why we play, the Equators, but
right.
Yeah, the Equators album. The Equators album was kind of like the holy grail of albums. While we were on tour, is like who can find an actual copy of it.
right.
And it took forever. We would just go every record store and try to find the Equators, and then finally we found a few.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So youngsters riding on the crest of your popularity, riding, playing with wailing souls, English beat. What more can you ask for? Why did the band dissolve? I mean, what more can you ask for? Really and truly.
I feel very lucky. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
God, the Selecter. I mean,
Right.
getting to know Pauline Black. I mean, the funny thing is too, at certain points on these tours, you would get sick of your bandmates. Like the guys in the specials would come over and ride in the van with us to go to the next city because they're like, I just don't want to talk to that guy. He's
That's
sitting in
true,
your
right? You'd
van.
switch. Yeah. Hey, can I ride with you guys, to the next city? Like, yeah.
Just
And they would be so happy,
I mean,
There was one night I think we had off in LA and I'm drinking beers with Roddy Radiation
right.
because they each had their own room. Well, we didn't have that luxury.
Right.
But,
But it would come. It would come if you guys had
Yeah.
continued on the path you were traveling.
right, yeah, we had a tour bus and stuff, but that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm drinking beers with him, just like asking him a bunch of questions. He's more than happy to, like, he's just like adding to the stories and telling me all this stuff. And I remember walking back to my room afterwards, like, what is happening? This is insane.
Yeah.
Suit just, I don't even know, just, beside myself.
Yeah. I remember one night it was late at night and we stopped at a truck stop and we're sitting there. It's basically let's go bowling on one side of the table and the specials on the other side of the table at this truck stop. And I remember Dean leaned over to me and he said, dude, when you were in high school, if somebody told you that one day you're going to be eating at a truck stop with the specials, and that was the moment that it really hit me of like, oh my God.
Yes, you guys are grown larger than life.
Surreal moments. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I could imagine how amazing that must have been.
And we listened to them every night,
Yeah.
those tours. We didn't miss a show. It was cool.
Yeah.
It's
great.
super cool.
We had the pleasure of talking with we interviewed Roddy late last year, and then we met Linville a few times over the years. So
Roddy is really a jokester.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
He is a jokester.
Can you share? There's a funny bad manner story, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna make it quick because it's kind of horrid. One night after coming, we all played. We played Tijuana. Is that right, you guys? Was that Tijuana? We went across the border. Was that the same night? We came back with bad manners.
I do not remember if that was the same night. You could be right.
And I think we were in San Diego. Anyways, everybody was just drunk to the hill. We were trying to go to bed, and of course, we were sharing beds because we didn't have any money. So Adam Lee, our drummer, and I were sharing or in a bed. And Buster comes in the room. He just knocks on the door like real loud, and he comes in the room because they got back after us, and he is wasted. And he is just, you could tell he's just having the time of his life. But we were kind of like, hey, we gotta go to bed, man. We got like stuff to do tomorrow. Like we've been partying with these guys like a lot. So it was kind of like, okay, we get it. We got stuff to do tomorrow. And he's like, hold on, I'm gonna leave you with one thing. I'm trying to remember the story correctly. And he turned around and pulled his pants down and put his finger in his butt. I'm not even kidding you. And he pulled it out and he put it on our bed and he made like this big cross on it. And he goes, that's the Sultan's cross. That'll protect you from vampires. And then he just left. And Adam and I got up, we pulled the covers off because we're like, I can't sleep with that. And so now that's one of our songs is Sultan's Cross, which is based on Buster Blood Vessel and his magical finger.
Can't hear that title the same anymore.
No, I know. I hate to even share it. It's like a hidden inside band joke, and that's how it was Buster.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So while we're talking about touring with band, we're gonna play something.
No, please,
all right.
please.
So let's continue.
Yeah.
How was the experience?
Great story.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
That was the story, right? That was the one.
The Spirit of Unity tour. It gets,
on a different note.
Yes.
It gets better by the moment.
Yes.
Playing with Spirit of Unity, playing with the pulsating Steel Pulse, the Marley Brothers. I guess we were really youngsters then. Mr. Buju Banton, the Honey Voice Man, Berry Simon, Shags Man, Shaggy, Third World, Lucky Dube, the African king of reggae music. What was that tour like?
And did you do? Was it select dates? What do you remember about that one?
And you went to Barbados, right? Did you go to
Uh,
Barbados?
For the kickoff, yeah.
Pick up.
Yeah.
There you go. Mhm.
I wasn't on that tour, so that's you
Oh.
guys.
Paul's got something to say, but
That was a fun tour. It was like, yeah, we were on most of the dates. I think we didn't finish the entire tour. We were almost done with it. That was the first tour that we got a bus.
Right?
And you know, and it was like it was the bargain basement bus, but it was a lot of fun. Really felt like a rock star.
it was Loverboy's bus.
What?
Really?
It was Loverboy's bus. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did the fans take to you guys? Because clearly, you have a different sound, right? None of these other acts with Scott necessarily in their set.
My recollection is that they were
opened the
fairly.
show, right?
I'm sorry.
No, so I think we opened the whole show.
Right, right.
Yeah. We opened the show, and it was. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
No worries.
My recollection was the crowds were fairly receptive,
Nice.
if not a little bit bewildered at the beginning, but by the end they would be like, oh, okay, you know, getting up and moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
And what was the response of the Jamaican musicians? Because a lot of them weren't used to listening to ska, since essentially ska, by and large, died out in Jamaica.
Right.
Did you get any response from any of the fellow musicians?
Yeah, a lot of really positive response. You know, one of the one that I remember the most, that was most like supportive and just really kind of kind and generous, was Lucky Dubé and his musicians. They were really, you know, they were just so happy and to be there and to have us there. And, you know, I never felt like it was, you know, never felt like we were less than or anything like that. They were just kind of, they were really supportive, you know, and very nice and kind, you know, and they all were actually. I don't remember getting any attitude from anybody on the tour. They all seemed to be really kind of, oh, cool that you're doing that, you know, good for you guys, you know.
Right.
And looking at the list here, I could see why Lucky Dubé really and truly stood up, because he had a massive brass section.
True.
Most of the other bands don't have, but he, similar to what you guys have.
And I would think David Hines and Steel Pulse, they clearly toured with some of the two-tone bands, you know, in the late 70s.
They had brass too?
Early 80s. No, but as far as touring with.
Oh yeah, living in England, of course, you know about.
And I would think that the response from fans might be similar to Junior and I were at the Greek Theater when Hepcat played on one of the last Reggae Sunsplash shows. And I forget, somebody said something to you.
A friend of mine from Jamaica who knew very little of the Scatterlight, but she said, "Damn, these bands sound better than the Jamaican bands, because they have brass." Right. And she was dead serious, you know, the brass is massive.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one night coming off of stage. This was at the one of the clubs in LA. So it's an LA store, and it was with the Scatterlights. And you know, we had a lot of two-tone dance stuff. We still covered some Untouchable stuff, but we would do plenty of Scatterlights covers. We did one of them. I can't remember what song we did. It was either whatever. We got off stage, and I remember Roland saying to us, like, "Was that you guys?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Well, we thought they put a record on." You know, I mean, most of our stuff to them listening to Jamaican music would not, you know, but every once in a while, you know, and Hepcat, of course, I could see fitting in that, because they're just, you know, they're Hepcat.
Perfect. Massive compliment right there, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about some of the compilations that you guys have had music on over the years. Do you hear from fans that there were certain points of discovery, you know, based on certain compilations? Like for me, I actually think the first time I might have heard you guys was on the California Ska Quake, Moon Ska Pinstripe Suit, and then I also heard Esta Noche on Pork Pie's United Colors of Ska '93. But do you hear that there's certain compilations where a lot of people do discover you guys? Like, are there consistency, or do you think it's all over the map?
I think I'd have to say all over the map. I don't. I think I've had people go, "Hey, man, I heard you guys on," just like you said, like, and then they'll pick one of those.
Right,
Mm.
right.
At first, I mean, the way we got on our first compilation was Scarface, and Rob Bucket contacted us. Somehow he heard of us, kind of blew us away at the time. We're like, wow, man, this record company on the East Coast wants us to be on this compilation. And so we're thinking that's kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, like, wow, there's a bunch of other bands doing this too, like all over the country. So that's how we found that out, which was super cool. So when that came out, we listened to that over and over and over again.
It's funny that you say that one specifically, Darren, because that was that album where we were on it, but I didn't know half the bands. We had played a show up here in Fresno. Donkey Show actually came and played
Oh, nice.
with us in like
Right.
'87.
Okay.
Because I definitely remember the singer Kim.
Mhm.
I definitely remember all of that. But then it was like a little later in that year, and then we came out on that compilation, and there was all these bands that we didn't know about but existed, like the Skeletons, No Doubt. I was like, what's this No Doubt thing? And like we would listen to these bands, and we didn't even know that these bands were almost in
Right.
existence.
Right.
We ended up starting to go play shows with them. Promoters were booking, come down. We need, we need another ska band.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
now we need 8 ska bands.
Mm.
We got 15 ska bands. We're doing a bill. Yeah. So
Sometimes there might have been one or two too many. So earlier we touched on Tazy. So Tazy
Phillips.
Phillips and the Ska Parade. So Tazy remembers, and he's told us, and you probably heard this, how influential you guys were to him in his discovery and love for ska. He first saw you guys on a bill with Early Dancehall Crashers and New York Citizens. You also appeared on both Ska Parade compilations. What do you remember about those two compilations that you were on, and maybe working with Ska Parade and Tazy and Albino?
I don't know. That's hard. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question. We met Tazy at Tazy and his brother at our shows. I think they would come to our shows and at the country club.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right.
I can remember, and you just sort of started to know him better and better, and then he started, and then but at first, anyway, I won't say that one. But he started doing more and more for the scene, and so we kind of watched, him start to document, record shows and do these kinds of things, and then get compilations together. I don't really remember. I remember going in and recording. He had us go into a studio in LA, I think. And
Right.
record. I think Paul recorded More Than a Person.
Okay. Yeah.
For one of the compilations.
Right. Right.
And I think he took video of that whole thing, but I don't know.
He's a great promoter of the scene in the early days as far as getting bands, name out there. And
Indeed.
so,
Yeah. And
it's a very good thing for sure.
Yeah.
On the map.
And he's still out there doing his thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he's still out there.
Yeah, still out there doing his
Oh
thing.
no, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and
Oh,
follow
okay.
you guys on Facebook, and just kind of keep up on what's going on in the
And
ska world.
And speaking of promoters, you also did, and we talked off air about this, but I saw you guys doing a couple of the Steady Beat shows over the years. So you did a number of those with Luis and Steady Beat, playing the greater LA area right over the years throughout the 90s. Any memorable Steady Beat shows? I think Alligator Lounge. I might have seen you guys once play at, kind of on I think it was Pico on the west side. If that makes, no, I don't know if that rings.
Sounds familiar. What year do you think that was?
That would have been like 96-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, around there.
I remember a couple of the Alligator Club shows. It seemed, I remember playing there. Man, there's so many different places that we played and everything. And I think it was really good. Did we play with the Untouchables there? Like in the 90s, they got back together for like a show.
Played with the Untouchables at the DNA Lounge in San Francisco.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Right next door to Slim's.
Right. Right.
Was that?
Unless
Maybe I'm
it
getting
was
them.
another.
Maybe I'm getting them confused now. Because
I don't know about that time. I know Joe Higgs used to do a lot of work at the Alligator Lounge as well.
Oh, Joe Higgs.
The Godfather.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys crossed path with Joe Higgs.
I don't think we ever did.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah. He worked extensively at the Alligator Lounge.
Right.
Right.
You released Mistress Twist on Moon Ska, is that right?
Yes.
Did you was that one that you recorded on your own and then delivered to Bucket for release, or what do you remember about that album?
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh no, that was a good. I'm sorry. It was. Yeah, it was fun. We recorded that in Fresno, and we had. Oh man, I just blanked on his name. Engineer it.
Andrew.
It was a friend of mine, Andrew Garber. Yeah.
Yeah, and he. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun doing that there. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
That's all right.
I'm trying to think if it was still. We were still Moon Records for a second album, but so I think that was. I think we recorded. I think it was planned we were going to do another one.
So that was your own production.
Yeah.
That is to say, you produce and finance.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You finance.
Freeway Lanes was on Asian Man, is that right? With Mike Park?
Right.
Okay. And that
So-
oh, go ahead.
No, but so approximately how many full lengths to your credit?
Full-length albums.
4.
4. Mm-hmm.
3 studio, 1 live.
Live, right.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And any plans to reissue? You have the rights to them?
Yeah, Asian Man did re-release the first 2 on vinyl.
How recent?
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And the last time I talked to Mike, he's going to do another pressing because they're all sold out faster than he thought.
There you
Or,
go.
That's amazing.
Which is exactly why I asked.
Right.
I love Mike. Mike posts videos of his mom helping stuff.
Yeah,
stuff
right.
There we go.
Oh, see, there's that
Yes.
one.
I have that on
I have an
CD.
open album there. Thank you, Mike Parks.
Yeah.
Well, good man. Good label.
I need to pick that up on vinyl. I have it on CD, but yeah, I have to do that.
So interestingly enough, what is the connection between the swing scene and Let's Go Bowling, and how did you guys benefit from
Right.
interacting?
So the swing craze, right? That late 90s-ish, right?
Did you guys benefit from it? Or the scene benefit, or the swing scene benefited from
From
what
you
you guys are doing?
It was weird. They all kind of went together. Like you,
Yeah.
did you
There you go.
Cherry Pop Daddies?
yeah, we toured with Cherry Pop and Daddies.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it seemed like it was it was something that it was mutually beneficial. I think some of the swing crowd was drawn into to the ska side, and some of the ska crowd was drawn into the swing side. While that was all going on. It was yeah. I remember there was one show that we played in Chicago. We actually played two shows, and then we went over to another place, to a swing club, and for some reason I think they thought we were going to be a swing band, and so we start playing, and
They didn't stone you guys.
yeah, and then so the swing dancers in the audience, they figured out how to do it to ska. They came out onto the dance floor and they were like doing it. They were dancing, doing some swing moves to what we were playing, and it was like, oh man, that's cool. That's cool.
Mhm. But what I've been noticing is that in Mexico and the United Kingdom, the two scenes are merging now and making a comeback. But if they ever were, I guess they weren't. There was a lull, but I noticed in England and Mexico, those two places, people are doing both. Like some of the parties, they have both. Mhm.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
To be fair, on some of those early shows, though, it wasn't so much about like we were bringing ska. Like a lot of these folks in these states hadn't heard of it.
Of
Yeah,
course not.
I'm sure.
Right.
Hadn't
Right.
got it. They
Right.
hadn't even discovered two-tone. They hadn't even,
Right,
there was
right.
many audiences I remember playing for where Darren and I would just look at each other like they don't even know what we do. Which is fine. We would like try to win crowds over and we'd have a great time because it's always fun to dance. But yeah, it was like taking the gospel out there
Yeah,
because
that's not. I liked it. You guys are cool. What do you call it again?
yeah,
I mean, that's
lots of that. We explained the word ska. Now it's like it's in cartoons and everybody knows what it is.
Mhm.
but that's the epitome of discovery, right?
Yeah.
Not only is someone discovering your band, but discovering an entire genre.
And good music.
Right.
And it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It was mediocre.
Did, did you guys ever go overseas to play?
No.
No.
Just Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in a sense, that's overseas. You got to have a passport. If
You're
you
right.
didn't have a
Yeah.
passport,
That's
you'd
a
still
tough-
be there.
That's a tough border to get through, right? Does it surprise you when you hear how influential Let's Go Bowling is to bands? Because truly, I mean, this is now our 78th episode, and I would say if they're Let's Go Bowling is got to be one of the handful of bands that we hear other bands credit to, being
Continuously, all the
the
time,
influence
over
and
and
a
over.
love for. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, we don't really hear it. I know that sounds weird. I don't hear it. I mean, I'm just have a family raising some kids. I don't get to hear like, hey, you guys, thanks. I don't know, thanks or whatever. But I'm glad.
Right.
I don't know how the other guys feel, but I feel very lucky that that is the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. That's great to hear. I love it because I remember, wanting or getting to tell some other musicians the same kind of thing, so the fact that we made we influenced some people, made an impression or whatever, it's pretty cool.
That's super cool.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
so what the future holds for Let's Go Bowling? What are the chances of you guys reuniting? See, I said that question for last, There's a certain deliberateness in me asking that last.
I think they're pretty good. Actually, I talked to the bass player just recently because he actually bought some Girl Scout cookies for my daughter. No joke. And he sounds like he wants to play. He's going through some health stuff right now, but I think once he gets on the other side of it, I don't know. I would like to. I would love to.
Yeah.
I love playing.
Same here.
Yeah, me too.
These guys are my extended family. It's like these
Yeah.
are my friends, and I love playing with them. They're great musicians. So I hope that.
And I said off camera when we were talking that I sent numerous messages to you guys over the years.
Well, here we go.
To put
Here we
you on the
go.
spot now.
We've
Apologies for not getting those or that nobody got back to you.
No,
That's
no offense.
No,
Yeah,
we're here now. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that you all will reunite for some shows.
Yeah, you guys, and your name comes up all the time in the scene, all the time, all the time.
Indeed. What are you guys doing to keep busy right now? Anything else on the music side? Dean, or rather Darren, let's start with you.
I'm actually playing a little bit of music with another guy and a little quartet, just doing cover stuff, covers of 70s yacht rock kind of stuff, 60s, 50s, 80s, 90s kind of stuff.
Right.
Jeffrey Fetters, he's a good player, dude.
Yeah, it's a scaled down thing. It's nothing like an LGB show, but yeah, it's fun.
Keeps your chops up.
Yeah. Total. Oh yeah. It's
Well, we'll check that out. Paul, what about you?
I I teach high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
What
and
do you teach?
I'm sorry.
What do you teach?
I teach theater actually and cinematography, and actually so really kind of the only playing that I do, because I've been waiting for these fools to get everything together so that we can play. But the music that I've been playing is actually, we have a teacher band, and then we just learn cheesy rock songs and play them for the kids at the rally. And
I love that.
yeah, it's and the sad part is, it's like that's the only live band that they've ever seen in their life.
That was going to be my point, that it's so good for the kids to see a live instrument.
Yeah, a lot of them will. Yeah, a lot of them will come up to us afterwards and ask if we were lip syncing, and it's like, no, we actually play the instruments, man. It's like,
Nice.
That's super important.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
That's what I call training our new generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's good fun. We just play cheesy rock songs and, like rock and roll all night and party every day, stuff like that.
sweet.
So, yeah.
Pete, how about you?
I haven't been doing hardly anything, which is unfortunate, but I have been pulling my saxophone out and practicing again in hopes that someday we play. And yeah.
And I meant to ask you all earlier when we were talking about where you were born and raised, but any particular influences that you want to call out, whether it's within the Jamaican music genre or not, that might have really influenced your playing or help contribute to your excitement to get into music?
Wow, that's a good question. Jazz for one, but that one's
Yeah, I think everybody in the band was in a jazz band at one time or another.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's the thing that was so amazing about the Scotlights. Like the first time I heard it was tough at first, to be honest with you, because there's no lyrics. It's not the Specials, but it was jazz. It was like, here's the horn line, everybody solo, here's the horn line, and there was something really cool about that. And of course, as a horn player, it was very
Right.
alive.
Well, and most of them
Practically all the players, have jazz background.
right.
Tommy McCook refused to play anything but jazz at one point. But now I'm a jazz musician. He used to brag, I'm a jazz musician. Until he heard Dan Drummond school in the Duke, and he said, "Oh, okay, we have good players in Jamaica, can play something else other than."
So it was Don that helped.
By and large, because Coxon Dad had asked Tommy repeatedly to form Scatterlights, and he was reluctant. Because he think, well, we don't have any good musicians in Jamaica. And so Coxon said to him, listen to this. There was Dan Drummond school in the Duke. He said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
cool.
Because Dan was on another level.
Right.
Yeah. Even beyond Tommy.
Indeed.
That's really cool. I love hearing the stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we've just about reached our destination?
Yeah.
Any parting words from you guys?
Well, I want to encourage, because I learned a lot about you all as well. So people do want to do a deeper dive. Mark Wasserman's Ska Boom, the birth of, or rather, American Ska and Reggae Oral History. Definitely a good read. There's a chapter on Let's Go Bowling and Khyber Rifles. So that's something I would recommend. But yeah, any parting words? And I just think back how cool it must have been to witness the Scatolites, even without Tommy, but to witness the Scatolites. And to spend that time with them, as well as, you know, so many of these two-tone legends, right, that I know influence you guys. Like, what an experience that must have been, you know?
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was around early '87, and one of those trips to San Francisco, I picked up a couple Scatolites records. Actually, Scatolites Best Of and a Best Of Don Drummond.
Mhm.
that were from the '60s, and that's where we got most of the tunes that LGB does, or has done over the years off those two records. And you know, we wanted to do them right, and finally to meet and play and sit down and talk with those musicians was just a treat. So it was,
I can
That's
imagine.
what a lot of people dream
Right.
of, what you guys
yeah,
hear.
right.
And in fact, well, took for granted, not necessarily in a negative way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Well, I'm thankful for those albums as well, because we would have some shows, like we would do these ski tours where you were booked for, you had to play 2 hours. Like, you're on for an hour, you got a half-hour break, drink some more beer, on for another hour. So we had to learn material. I mean, we had to fill it. And those albums, fortunately, it's great. It was like, okay, here's another Scotlight song, solo, stretch it out.
Stretch it
Keep
out.
you gotta keep, yeah. So it was perfect. It was a perfect combination of jazz. As a horn player, you're like, I get to solo for a long time, and it's
Right.
not a jazz band. I don't know. It's very cool.
So on average, in your set, what percentage originals versus covers?
Just a regular,
Yeah.
maybe
Just a regular
75-minute set or whatever.
Yeah.
We'd always throw a couple, you know, the Equator song or two in there, or you know, a couple Scatolites,
Right.
Yeah.
and then you know, rest would be ours, I guess. That's roughly the mix.
There's always at least a Scatolite song, you know, and we would always want to go and do that when we were playing, because you know, we wanted to give, you know, we wanted to give credit where credit was due, and you know, and pay homage to, you know, the creators, you know, the guys who were just, you know, so great. And we wanted to make sure that you know, everywhere we went, we spread a little, you know, Scatolite love somewhere, you know.
And that really ensures acceptance. You know, to audience listening, oh, Scatolites recognize it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd always
Especially
call it out.
in places like Canada, maybe not so much the Midwest, but Canada, East Coast, definitely Scatolite songs will be recognized and give you a leg up.
Right.
And it must have been difficult for bands to follow you guys without horns.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You see audience respond.
I think at one point, I think Chris Murray told me, like, us playing the Scatolites in Toronto was the first time he ever saw like a band playing Scatolites tunes, because he was already doing what was Chris Murray's first band?
King Apparatus.
Great band.
Yeah.
We played with them, and yeah, none of the bands in Toronto, like, they hadn't seen any of that. It was, so I don't know. It's cool.
Yes.
Very.
Speaking of Chris Murray, you guys played Blue Beat Lounge?
Yes.
Did you do that Knitting Factory?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Were you there?
definitely helped. I don't know. I don't think I saw you guys there, but I mean, the Blue Beat Lounge absolutely helped keep the scene going.
Oh yeah.
A significant number of years,
For a number of years, right?
Respect to Chris Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought Chris on tour with us once,
Hey,
and he just did his solo act. It was just him and his guitar,
wow.
and opening for us every night.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great.
Where are some of the places the tour took you guys?
I'm sorry.
Where are some of the places that the tour took you?
That oof.
Coast to coast?
That tour.
Coast to coast, right? I
Yeah,
think we
that was
played
coast
every
to coast.
state
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like one
Hey.
state.
Wow.
Man, you guys are really larger than
Yeah.
life.
And what Dean was saying, you know, there were times when it was in the colder seasons, we would do a lot of ski resort tours, and we would stay in Colorado for a whole week and do, you know, you name it, Vail, Colorado Springs, Denver, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we stayed, but we just kept doing tour after tour and we'd be like, hey, we haven't played here before. Hey, and I remember Mark Michelle, guys, a new freeway. We haven't been on this one. You know, it's kind of
Yeah, there were a lot of
Trailblazers, man. Trailblazers.
yeah, super fortunate.
From
Just
bowling
super
alleys
fortunate.
to ski resorts. I love it.
We just kept getting offers to come play, and we were just super lucky. So
Skate parks. Like, what's the weirdest
No
place
booking agent? You guys did not book an agent?
we've had we did
Oh.
for
It was Rick Bondi,
yeah.
Hey, respect.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
and then he started doing a lot of the toasters and ended up getting hooked. In fact, I think for a while Bondi was doing this kind of lights. I think he might have been booking them.
Yeah, he did absolutely did a lot for ska, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Any final words here? We absolutely appreciate you guys taking the time and sharing some stories and memories.
No problem. I don't have any. It was some good stuff.
I really appreciate you having us come on and talk, because it's, you know,
Well overdue, say it.
yeah, it's like, you know, because you know, we unfortunately don't get to see each other as much anymore, and you know, all these memories are just kind of like flooding back into my head, that you know, so, and this is a beautiful experience for me, you know, to kind of relive some moments with you all, you know, so thank you for inviting us here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Guys.
it's our pleasure.
So we're gonna call this your parting words.
Yeah.
Anyone in particular you want to thank or acknowledge that before we put the stopper on?
That's always a tough one.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for your ongoing support. Please subscribe to this podcast series and our YouTube channel. Follow us on History of LA Ska, Instagram, and join our Facebook group, which is growing larger than life. This series is produced by my good friend here, Eric Kohler,
And
for
Junor,
Rockery Radio.
and Junor, thank you very much. And gentlemen, really appreciate you taking the time, Darren, Dean, Paul, and again, give our best to the rest of the group. Let's Go Bowling absolutely played a huge part in the scene, and we'll continue to, because we do want to see you out there live again, and we do encourage everyone to check out your music and get out there and support the scene as much as you can, whether it's with live
not
music,
only
right?
Fresno, but the whole entire United States.
Right.
Indeed. So
You guys have your star in Fresno?
They have a Walk of Fame. Is that what you mean?
I'm not sure if they have one, but there should be.
There should be.
You guys put Fresno on the map.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
That's why I'd asked you before if Fresno is known historically as a music city. I don't know how to phrase it. Yeah, a lot of famous musicians come from Fresno, apart from you guys.
There's always been bands, but I don't know. I'm sure I'm missing.
You guys are probably one of the biggest bands. That's the point I'm trying to drive for.
Well,
Take
I
it.
think Warren Zevon actually is originally.
You have to think so. There aren't that many. who played alongside the pulsating steel buzz, Lucky Dube, the Marley Brothers. Are you kidding me? A lot of people are dreaming about this opportunity.
On the ska side of things, though, right? Los Hooligans, Checkmate, a couple, right?
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And Kyber Rifles.
Right, Kyber Rifles,
So
obviously.
you guys are up there with them.
Yeah.
We've been acknowledged, by
City
you know articles in the paper and things like that over the years many times, and they've given us praise, and
Fantastic.
we've always appreciated that, and and
Right.
they would say that we were big touring band, and they would kind of explain ska every time, and kind of that kind of thing. So it's
And I got the word out even more. It's good.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely true. Yeah. Well, looking
All right.
forward to meeting you all in person sometime, guys. And again, best of luck for everything. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. And again, Junior, thank you.
Yeah.
And
And tell
until
those
next
writers
time.
to keep their pen open.
Exactly.
But you guys are not yet ready to be carried off to the pasture like retired racehorse. You're
right.
coming back.
Until next time, thank you everyone for all the support, whether you listen or watch us. Junior, thank you. Gentlemen, have a great night. Be well. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye now.